One of the striking features of today's Gospel from St. Mark is that we're not told which men the disciples will fish for. Yes, they'll be fishers of men. That's what our Lord called them to be. But which men they'd be fishing for wasn't specified. Specifying the people to be caught doesn't appear to have been part of the deal. Now, one reason that this might be so is that the 12 were being called to fish for everyone. There's no need to specify which people the 12 are looking for, because in fact, any will do, and all are legitimate targets of the 12's attention. Every human being is a potential fish to be caught by the 12, and all that really matters, one might say, is that one accept the truth of the gospel. If one does that, then one will have been caught, and the 12 will have done their fishing. Now, that's perfectly fine because it points to a profound truth about God and his church. God desires that all people be saved, and the church is the vehicle through which this can happen. As such, one might argue it's not surprising that there's no specification of which people should be fished for, because that's not the point being made. Yet, true as that is, the 12 still make choices about which places they go to and which people they will speak to while they are fishing, so to speak. Those choices, particular and concrete as they were, are perfectly consistent with the universal claim that God desires that all people be saved. No retreat is made from that. It's just that the 12 had to start somewhere, and in doing so made choices about places and people. Now that brings us to the choices St. Dominic Barberi made in the course of his mission, and who we celebrate as a feast here in Oxford because of his association with the surrounding area. Put yourself in St. Dominic's shoes. If you were going to come to England in the 1840s to preach the gospel, where might you choose to do so? Well, it seems to me that two striking alternatives present themselves. First, and perhaps most obviously, though perhaps I may betray my own prejudices here, one might have decided to go to the growing industrial cities of Liverpool and Manchester. Plenty of Catholics there, largely immigrants though, clearly a need for priestly ministry and the development of Catholic structures, schools, hospitals, convents, parishes, and so on. That wasn't St. Dominic's choice, though. He made a rather different choice. He pottered about in central England, spending time in rural villages and encouraging the public expression of the faith. He even specialized in receiving Anglicans into full communion with the church, most famously with John Henry Newman. One might say that St. Dominic chose to fish in the England of Anglicanism rather than the England of Irish immigration. Strikingly, though, either choice would have been perfectly legitimate. Indeed, both choices would have been consistent with the universal claim that God desires that all people be saved. However, given that God never retreats from that desire, and different preachers, different ministers, will inevitably make different choices in where and for whom they fish, then we can suppose that God will always raise up the right preacher for the right context. God will always provide the right preacher for the right time and the right place, just as he did with St. Dominic Barberi. Each evangelical niche, we might say, will be filled, chosen by a person from God who will provide for that time. Thankfully, all we need to do is be aware of that and listen to the call God gives.